Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. It being 9:31, I will call this meeting to order and then open the floor opportunity for public comment. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak?
You're Ryan, this is Kendra. I apologize. I need to ask James to host. I have lost connection on my side.
Okay.
I believe it's still showing my screen, but on the desktop, I need to reconnect.
Okay. James, are you there?
Hi, Ryan. Yes, I'm here. Can you see my screen? I think I took over.
So. I believe so.
On
You
the
got the agenda slide
now.
up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we're good to go.
Great.
Okay. Seeing no public comment from anyone, we will move to the staff update. Quick staff update. In your packet, you will see the upcoming meetings. Those are all currently electronic. If those switch over and turn to in-person meetings, we'll notify everybody well in advance. All meetings are scheduled for 9:30 a.m. The MTP Reprioritization, we had a subjective scoring workshop on the 27th with pretty good turnout. The objective scores are currently being calculated by the consultant. The tax subjective scores are due on February 10th. And we've also included an updated schedule you can see on the screen, or it's the next page in your packet. Air quality readings were 49 and 45. And the last staff update that I want to let everybody know is not included in your packet. Since the legislative session has kicked off, we will be monitoring the legislature for any transportation related bills. In addition to that, we were notified by AMPO that there's some supplemental funding for CARES that's going to be passed down for the MP that will probably go through MPOs. We're keeping our ear to the ground on that. And once we hear anything more about those allocations for the supplemental funding, we'll be sure to let everybody know about that as well. Are there any questions for me on the staff update? Seeing none, we will move to the meeting minutes. As you'll see on the screen in your packet, we have the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any questions or any discussion on the previous meeting minutes? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. If you could type your motion in the chat box, please. I have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Moving right along to agenda item 5. This is a discussion item regarding the resolution number 2021-04 regarding the safety performance measures. This is on pages 12 through 17 in your packet and can be seen on the screen.
Yes.
Are you back on?
Yes, I am. This item, as well as the next item, these are annual performance measures that you've seen over the past 3 years. We do have to renew these annually. The safety performance measures, historically, we have adopted those at the state. In the future, in the next year or two, we would like to utilize a consultant to look at our metrics a little more closely with data that should be readily available by that time to make possibly a more tailored adjustment to our targets for our region. At this time, we are recommending to still adopt the state measures. Those are included in the meeting packet for review. On the next page is a recommended resolution that will be brought back before the TAC and Policy Board in March. So at this time, this is just for your review and for discussion. Again, these targets follow the number of traffic fatalities, the number of serious injuries, fatalities per 100 million VMT, serious injuries per 100 million VMT, and the number of non-motorized fatalities and non-motorized serious injuries. So if you have specific questions relating to these, please reach out to staff. Otherwise, again, there is quite a bit of data and information on the state targets that are included in your packet. Uriah, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Kendra on the safety performance measures? Okay, seeing none, we will move to agenda item 6, which is also a discussion item regarding resolution 2021-05 for the transit asset management state of good repair performance measures. That's pages 19 through 41 in your packet.
Yes, sir. And likewise, again, this is an annual performance. We typically adopt the safety and the transit asset management at the beginning of each year. And then as you recall a few months ago, that's whenever we adopt the PM2 and 3 on freight system performance and the other transit components. So you'll see those in a cycle along that schedule. But there is, again, a recommended resolution that will be brought back before you all in March. The most recent 2021 Transit Asset Management Plan from Hill Country is included in the meeting packet with their targets and performance measures outlined for you all. We will bring this back next month for continued discussion and hopefully a recommended approval for Policy Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendra. Any questions or discussion on those performance measures? Seeing none, we will move to agenda item 7, which is a discussion item regarding the CDM Smith Freight and Truck Parking Study update.
We do have Charlie Sullivan on the line from CDM Smith. They have wrapped up this task for freight parking and study that we have undergone over the last 6 months. And so, Charlie, if you're on the line, feel free to go ahead and present.
This is Roger Schiller. Charlie, did you want to present, or do you want me to do that? I'm prepared either way.
No, go ahead, Roger. We were counting on you doing it.
Okay. So Kendra, can you make me a presenter and I can share my screen?
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Roger.
Sure. Okay, hang on. Can everybody see this?
We can, thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Okay, let me put it in presenter mode here, or slideshow. All right, so this is kind of this is our final presentation for the study. The technical work is mostly wrapped up at this point, and I'm going to really briefly go over the some of the tasks we already did, but we're going to spend most of our time on kind of the recommendations. So study overview, basically, as some of y'all know, we assessed the regional freight needs and the truck parking supply, and that had to do with general freight needs, not just truck parking. Some of the existing truck parking locations were identified in that first step, but overall it kind of highlighted the need for a more local study, which is what we did with this effort. Then we analyzed the current and forecast truck parking demand in the region, and that assessment found a shortfall of about 343 peak hour truck parking spaces in 2018, which is expected to grow to 827 spaces if no new capacity is built beyond what we already know is planned. Most of that demand is on I-35, but there's significant demand also on I-14 and US 190. Development of the joint use facility at Fort Hood was not specifically part of our forecast, but that would also increase parking demand on that corridor and maybe on SH 195 as well. The remaining two tasks, which we're going to spend most of our time on today, we're identifying some recommended truck parking locations for the region, and then evaluating truck parking policy options and kind of developing a toolbox of policies that the region can look at. So to identify locations for new or expanded truck parking, we started with the opportunity sites that we had identified in earlier tasks. And then we eliminated sites that had fatal flaws. Examples of fatal flaws include safety issues or maybe an incompatible land use, like a few of them were next to a church or something like that. And then with the remaining sites, we developed a survey instrument and surveyed the TAC and the Freight Advisory Committee on those remaining sites to get their opinion on them and overall recommendation about whether or not they were suitable for truck parking. The results of that survey are shown in the graphic at the bottom there. Basically, a red one is a no and a green one is a yes, a 0 is a maybe, basically. At the bottom row there, you can see there are some blank cells down here, and those are the sites that we didn't get any specific recommendations one way or the other about. So we just qualitatively evaluated those when we didn't get any specific survey input. So this process identified 2 public and 8 private sites around the region that could provide up to about almost 2,700 truck parking spaces. However, the Fort Hood sites account for most of that potential capacity, which leaves about 900 potential spaces that could be developed elsewhere. We want to emphasize that these are just potential sites that would be suitable. We're not making a definitive official recommendation that these should be developed as truck parking, because we recognize that the property owners may have other plans for them. But we're just kind of pointing out that if they would be suitable if the opportunity arose. We also found 19 potential expansion locations. These are sites that already have truck parking that we identified, and they're a mix of public and private, formal, informal, different levels of amenities. Some of them are specifically truck stops. They specifically serve truckers. Others are other businesses that happen to provide truck parking in the region. We know that the provision of amenities is directly related to usage. Truckers prefer amenities like showers and laundry and things like that, which is why we wanted to kind of point out the ones that have a higher level of amenities. So profiles for each of the new and expansion locations were provided in your packet. If you had a chance to review that ahead of the meeting, I'd be happy to take questions or comments, or if you want to provide feedback later on after the meeting, we can take that as well until about February 17th, and then we'll probably need to start wrapping up our recommendations. So I'll pause there in case anybody has any thoughts or comments on the recommended locations before we move on. Okay, well, hearing none, I'll go ahead and proceed. So the final step in the study was to develop a policy menu. And we identified 19 categories of policy recommendations to help increase truck parking supply in the region. Some of them are things that KTMPO would lead, and others they'd have more of a support role. These are detailed in the final report. I'm not going to go through all 19 of these right now, but we are going to highlight a few of them just to kind of give you a flavor of what's in there. So one of the options where KTMPO could lead would be evaluating the I-35 corridor for future truck parking sites. We identified several vacant lots along I-35 that could be suitable. There might be others. An example is site number 68, which is at Shanklin Road in Salado. It wasn't specifically recommended by stakeholders in our survey, but it wasn't dismissed by them either. So we've called these out as a category because they lie along the highest demand, or highest truck parking demand corridor in the region. But they're mostly private property, and they're vacant, and they may have issues with zoning or infrastructure like water and sewer service. So developing these kinds of sites would require some coordination among owners and the local jurisdictions. We also wanted to call out the joint use facility on Fort Hood. They indicated that site 67, which is highlighted in the picture there, would be suitable for truck parking. This is a policy question though, because the joint use facility is on Fort Hood property with restricted access. So it's not something that the region could take the lead on developing truck parking by itself, but there could be some coordination there to kind of meet the need that might arise from there in coordination with Fort Hood. Any parking that site has needs for parking areas, for both parking and waiting areas, and this site might double that because there could be requirements both on and off base for truck parking. And there could also be some infrastructure considerations there, since access to the site and any truck staging areas might require road projects like ramps and turn lanes. Another thing was to consider small lots for truck parking. The example shown here is a McDonald's on I-35. It's got 8 truck parking spots that they provide. It's across the street from the CEFCO service station that has diesel fuel. So there are some amenities nearby for truckers. And this is a good example because it's private ownership. It provides 8 truck parking spots, which is not a whole lot, but it is something. It's got easy access to I-35, and there's no apparent conflicts with other land uses. So the policy here basically would be balance the larger truck stops with potential smaller sites like this within the urban area that don't have any apparent land use conflicts. Another one we thought of was developing design guidelines for new truck parking. One of the concerns about truck parking that we heard from the stakeholders was that it's not aesthetically pleasing. So we figured KTMPO could develop like a model design guidelines for truck parking that communities in the region might adopt or modify as they see fit. An example might be using a monument style signage like the one on the left there. And the picture on the right shows it's kind of a visual graphic representation of a commercial zoning district design guidelines with maximum building heights and different setbacks from the street and things like that. You could also consider vegetative buffers and things like that to kind of make them more aesthetically pleasing and fit into the neighborhood better. We also uncovered some examples of cities that allow overnight parking on select streets in appropriate locations. The map there on the right is from the city of Moreno Valley, California. They allow, on certain streets, they allow truck parking from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. These would most logically be placed near industrial parks and major freight generators. One good candidate might be Industrial Boulevard. That was suggested by a TAC member in the survey. There are also suggestions from the trucking industry to provide limited truck parking alongside freeway on-ramps, but not on the off-ramps, because that would present a safety issue with the speed of the vehicles coming off of the highway. And then the last one that I wanted to highlight was this Interstate Oasis program. That's an FHWA program that lets states partner with private travel center operators to provide travel retail products and services, restrooms and parking and things like that that are near the interstate but outside of the interstate right of way. The pictures there are from Illinois. It shows how developed these types of things can be. They've got a wide selection of restaurants there. You can see the truck parking here and here. We got other services there. And the key point here basically is to leverage private sector involvement to provide amenities that would make this more attractive for truck drivers. Since like I said before, amenities are a big consideration for them. That this might be an option for something like the TxDOT, Bell County rest areas. They have, obviously, they have truck parking there, but there's very few amenities. And if more amenities could be provided, that would make them more attractive for truckers. So that's all I've got. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions?
This is Jason with City of Temple. Good morning.
Good morning.
On the private property businesses like Love's Travel Stop and the Cefco, did you guys coordinate or discuss that with those businesses, or so they won't be surprised if they perhaps see their name in the study, or is that coordination left up to the local entities?
We sent some surveys out to them and tried to contact them for interviews, but I don't remember off the top of my head if we actually managed to directly contact any of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
This is Melissa with Killeen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to point out, I don't know if you're aware, the city of Killeen has a pending location at the intersection of Rosewood and I-14. It would be an Cefco, or I'm sorry, an Exxon travel station.
Rosewood and I-14. I think we identified that one, but I'll go back and double check. Charlie, do you remember?
Yeah, we've identified two that are currently under review. One is a small existing one is going to be a TxStar. I don't remember the other one. I thought it was right along 35.
Yeah, one of them was on I-35, but I think I remember seeing another one that was on I-14. But we'll go back and check, make sure.
Okay, yeah, it's a new privately proposed one on a lot that was previously undeveloped on the southwest corner of the intersection. And then right after that on Rosewood would be another gas station that could potentially have truck parking.
Okay.
This is Roger
Thank
Miller
you.
from Oriole County. I would ask Mr. Schiller if you might, and for everyone's discussion, you might consider removing site number 67, the joint use location. I say that for two reasons, and Michael Love, if you would chime in, I'd like your assessment on this as well. If and when, and I think it's going to be later rather than sooner, that joint use site is developed, I believe there's going to be some significant security concerns and protocols that would be enforced and enacted because that is on government property and that's part of a military installation. And obviously force protection and threat mitigation is going to be one of their concerns. So with that, I think the total number of spaces, when we're saying that that's 175, that slightly skews the number that we would find throughout the region. So with that, Michael, if you would chime in or give your thoughts on that as well.
Hold on, Michael. We're going to try and see if we can get you unmuted.
You're right. I'm trying to, but it's it doesn't give me an option to unmute him. It says he's not connected to audio, he's connected via the web. Are you on your phone, Michael?
While y'all
Are you, Michael, if you're watching if you can see the screen at the top right corner, there's a settings menu, and you can switch your audio from computer to phone. That might be the issue.
While y'all are trying that, this is Charlie. Let me just mention that site 67 that he mentioned is at the southeast corner where 9 comes in, the tank destroyer. So it is on Fort Hood property. We did that on purpose because we figured that the trucks have to have a staging area somewhere. And the other places we were looking at was south of US 190 towards the housing areas. So this is a possible further study as we're looking at public and private land, looking at security and having some place that trucks have a place to park and stage as they access that joint use facility. So we recognize the joint use is military and civilian, public and private, and this is just one of the potential sites.
Was
Testing.
Michael able to switch his audio?
Testing.
I think we have somebody on the line. Is that you, Michael?
This is. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hello. Hey.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Just revisiting the conversation about security at the. They're relocating at Line Hall, but also they're going to, as I said, pull the truck traffic off of Highway 9. We'll go back to the image.
Go back to the image.
Yes, please.
There it is.
A little small on my end, but so the question was whether or not there are any security issues there.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe that they are wanting to pull that. They are, because they have to go ahead and check these trucks, check them for explosive things of that sort. They're wanting to pull that exchange inside of the perimeter fence.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last thing I remember from that one. Let's zoom in a bit here. Okay. All right. So what it's showing right now, that was the initial location where they wanted to create this exchange. I guess it's like it's a pad with with the ramps and everything else, and they would back the trucks in. They would drop off the commodities and have someone from Fort Hood come out and take it in to the perimeter fence. But the last thing we talked about that was that they wanted to move that inside of the perimeter fence line.
So basically the security screening would happen inside the wire.
It would pretty much happen exactly the same way it would for all the other vehicles coming in on Fort Hood.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically the question, I'm just kind of wanting to revisit that. What was exactly the question in terms of security issues?
I think it was Roger Miller that raised that concern. Could you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, Michael, the only thing I was touching on was that, when we're looking at the overall plan, for the potential sites and, what the assessment is, that I think with the development of the joint use facility, more so than other potential sites, there would be some security measures that would be implemented due to that being part of the military's property and risk mitigation and screening processes. not to discount it completely, but I didn't want to skew the entire study based off of that particular site. I do want to acknowledge that that site is, a great location, and at some point in the future, and I wish it was sooner rather than later, that was developed and implemented, because it does relieve quite a bit of local congestion on I-14. I just, so Michael, I guess I was reaching out from a Fort Hood standpoint. What are your thoughts on really the feasibility and the accessibility that just transient truck traffic would be able to utilize that?
And guys, Mario Perez just walked in. Mario, they're talking about the multimodal joint use facility that we were initially looking to place here outside of the perimeter fence. I think the sense that's moved inside of it. Just from their feasibility study standpoint, they're trying to figure out how that would impact this.
Well, I think that the preliminary requirements is to get access off of that Highway 9, those ramps that we were trying to get the DAG funding for. That's going to be a prerequisite to get the truck access coming off Highway 9 onto Tank Destroyer, be able to access the area that we're targeting for that multimodal facility. And I know that they did not make the cut line just a week or 2 weeks ago for the DAG funding. We were hoping to get those ramps funded through DAG this year.
As it relates to what might happen in terms of, so Roger, just kind of going back to it, just in the conversation about like what happens with the security checkpoint, like what happens in terms of security, like what would be needed for that to.
This would be outside. Eventually, that
Right.
would be outside our security checkpoint. So if they had the ramps and whatnot built, where the heavy traffic could get from Highway 9 on Tank Destroyer, that would be outside of our ECP into that mixed modal, multimodal facility.
So that area would potentially be somewhere truck parking would be able to be at, if it's outside the perimeter.
Right. When you say truck parking, I think you're talking about staging, right, for use of that transload area that would eventually be built. I assume that's what you're talking about. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't. Yeah, that would have to be built outside of the entry control points.
Okay.
But you're right. You're talking about the line haul, which is going to be separate. It's going to be a separate stuff.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
You're Ryan. This is Ryan Haverlaw.
Yes, sir.
Everything that Mr. Love has just said is exactly what was in the feasibility study for that joint use facility, and that the joint use facility would be outside of the secured area, but would be constructed in a way that it could be secured depending on Fort Hood's needs. And so there was an area for staging of trucks and parking when using that facility. So I think the fact that it's listed on the study is a positive, especially from a potential funding standpoint, to be able to point to another justification for the use of that facility and improvements that are needed, such as those ramps on from State Highway 9 to Tank Destroyer.
Okay. I think we can incorporate that into what how we document this site in the report.
Now, I'm not sure. I think that the DAG funding has been attempted I believe, twice now to get those ramps above the cut line. So, we would have to maintain, the funding that the various stakeholders from the Killeen-Temple have pledged, for, the likelihood of that getting funded on the next go round. I'm not sure what else from the community that could, maybe adding this more emphasis on this future use could help get these ramps above the funding line on DAG. But without that access, we wouldn't be able to get the traffic into that area yet.
Thank you. Any further comment? Judge Miller, did you have something else?
No, I was just going to say that Mr. Havilaw had addressed an issue that I had forgotten about. I feel like I might have put my foot in my mouth. I concur with him wholeheartedly. And I know that, yes, this has the on-ramps for this particular site were the topic of our last two DAG grant submissions. So with that being said, I'm extremely in favor of keeping this. I think there's a multiple benefits with all of it, and so I appreciate the discussion from everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, I will move to agenda item 8, which is also a discussion item regarding TxDOT Local Government Projects Toolkit. That's pages 95 through 96 in your packet.
Yes, you're right. This is just simply a guide for the local government that follows in line with the yearly local government workshop that TxDOT puts on. This is just a toolkit that staff came across. We wanted to post just as a reminder. There is a web link that is listed there in the packet. It brings you to the graphic that is on the right side of the page. And as we are approaching project selection, project prioritization and award, we just wanted to again bring this back before the committee as a guide for further implementing their projects.
Thank you, Kendra. Any questions for Kendra on the toolkit? Seeing none, agenda item 9 is a discussion item regarding proposed FY21 special studies. That's pages 98 through 99 in your packet.
We are gearing up to begin preparing for FY21 special studies. On the screen are a few studies that were not picked up for FY20, so we have brought them back forward for further consideration. We have also added in a census boundary expansion study that we would like to consider, as well as a public involvement study, perhaps how we can better reach those within our region to get more comments from the region, more public involvement. And then again, the signalization study, the bike share feasibility study, and those on the next page were also brought forward from the last discussion. A corridor study, this might fall in line with those that were recommended by the freight analysis, perhaps an I-35 corridor study specifically for freight parking, but this could be expanded to other areas as well. So we will bring these items back to you all in March. We are seeking feedback on these or additional studies that we would like to consider as well. We are considering around $150,000 for these studies. And again, the costs are mentioned there under each study. So unless there's any questions, we would like for you to just think about these, reach out to staff if you would like to see additional studies added on to our March meeting packet. But any questions or comments, we'll take those now.
Any questions, discussion on the upcoming potential proposed FY21 studies? This will be brought back again. This, like I said, it's just a discussion item. If you think of any input in regard to this, please feel free to send it over to staff.
Ryan, this is Jason. Was there any discussion of which of those studies would come first, or is that some of the feedback that you're looking for?
That's right. We have not gotten that far, but we would appreciate that feedback, yes.
I mean, just off the top, I would put the public involvement out there first. But that's just my 2 cents. I'll shoot you an email.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any further comments or discussion? Seeing none, we will move to agenda item 10, which is a discussion item regarding public input received through January 2021.
The comments that you see listed on the chart are the comments that we received last month in favor of the Belton project. We have not received any additional comments since that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along, agenda item 11, member comments. Are there any members that wish to address the TAC? No comments. Seeing none, agenda item 12 is adjourned, and we will adjourn the meeting at 10:13. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, folks.